For my book review, I picked the book What is Pearl Harbor, written by Patricia Brennan Dumas and illustrated by John Matham. Patricia Brennan Dumas wrote many of these books. She also wrote Who's Bill Gates, Who's Laura Ingalls Wilder, What is Ellis Island, and many more nonfiction stories like this that explain actual things in history or actual people and their lives. The illustrator, John Matham, also illustrated all of her books like this, and he designed 9 coins for the Royal Canadian Mint and has done a lot of other artwork for Canada companies. Through reading this, I learned a lot about Pearl Harbor, more than I even knew from before and from past history classes. I learned that Pearl Harbor happened on the island of Oahu, Hawaii in 1941. It was a military base which had 18,000 U.S. Navy and U.S. Army men who were located on the base. This was during World War II, and the only threat at the time in the Pacific was Japan. One Sunday morning, on December 7th, at 7:55 a.m., the Japanese began to fly over Pearl Harbor, dropping bombs. After the attacks, 2,402 Americans were dead. We first became enemies with Japan, but most of America wanted to stay out of World War II. The book explains the time frame of when we entered the war and when Japan did. Japan was given 2 choices, to agree with the American demands or to go against them. So Japan decided to attack the U.S. and go against our demands. So in the book, the pages, they talk about Japan leaders and their work in the attacks. Prime Minister Jodo of Japan decided they must go into war and attacked Pearl Harbor. So in the book, it has many illustrations of, here's the bombs, the flames, dropping the bombs, and it just goes into big images of the disaster and the important people, that's Hitler, and why World War II was started. It goes into talking about our president, Franklin D. Roosevelt at the time. It shows where Japan is in location to Hawaii. So our biggest threat was Japan at the time because it was the closest to our Pacific coast. It goes into people, leaders in Japan, Emperor Hirohito, and basically it just talks a lot about the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Here's some of the Japan leaders that orchestrated the attacks. Also, here are all the planes coming over to bomb Pearl Harbor. So the images really aid along the text. There's even some real-life images, like this is a real photo. These are real photos, and they have little descriptions under them. The U.S. sailor doused in flames in the USS Western Virginia. So they're trying to take out the flames from the bombing. It has, here's one of the actual bombs. You can go see that today in Hawaii. So it just gives you a lot of actual images of the attacks and the bombings. So the story goes into detail of the bombings and has it has the real images like I just showed. 40 torpedo bombers flew towards the U.S. battleships. Following them were high-level bombers. The U.S. military men realized what was happening and tried to fight back. The U.S. ship, USS Arizona, was one of the main ships that got bombed. There were 1,500 officers and sailors that lived on it, and at 8:10 a.m. after the 7:55 bombings, which was 15 minutes later, on that Sunday, it was still standing after all those bombs came, which all happened within like such a short period of time. The soldiers did try to fight back while they were being bombed. They took out their bombing planes and like their ships and began also throwing bombs back because they were prepared for that. So soldiers fought back to take down the planes that were coming to bomb them, and they helped those who got wounded, and those were a lot of people like that were on the ship, they got bombed and they fell off the ship, so like a lot of the soldiers were helping them get back on the ship. So from this, we joined the war. We joined into World War II, and on August 6th, 1945, 4 years later, we dropped an atomic bomb on Japan, the city of Hiroshima, and then 3 days later on the city of Nagasaki. So today Pearl Harbor is a famous tourist attraction in Oahu, and people can go see that, and you can see the USS Arizona, and just basically it's kind of a memorial for what did happen and how we ended up joining into World War II after. So this book just taught me a lot about what happened. I did know some of it from obviously like history classes in high school, but I learned a lot about the details, and like there's so many images that aid the text. Here's like a ship being bombed, men swimming out of the water after they're bombed. So this nonfiction children's book taught me a lot about Pearl Harbor that I did not know, and I'm sure I can simply explain it to children who are reading this book. There are many pictures and real-life images that go along with the simple text to make for a quality nonfiction children's book for kids. I enjoyed reading it. I learned a lot. It was very simple for me. It wasn't like some big article I found doing a research paper. It was just a simple, here are the facts, here's everything that happened, here are the images. The colored one, most of these are black and white, and then they even provide you with a timeline of specific events that did happen in Pearl Harbor. So altogether, this nonfiction children's book was very informational for me as a 19-year-old college student, and I'm sure can be very informational for children reading it ages from grades 4 through 8. So it actually did take me a good bit of time to read. It is about 100 pages, and I would recommend. I think it's a great book, and I'm sure there's others that are just like this. Well, I mean, there are others that are just like this, that are what was other events or what was this person, and I think they're very informational, explainable nonfiction children's books. Thank you.